Hello friends, it is I once again here with another map chat on a Sunday. Well, it's an afternoon here in Spain. I don't know what time it is where you are, but it's been a very pleasant day today. I hope that you're all doing very, very well. And today we're going to be doing another map chat with Amy from AE Paperart, which is really exciting. It's the first female artist that I've had to do a map chat, which I'm really excited about because we should all be represented too. So when Amy can add herself in, then we'll start having a little chatteroo. But yeah, today the weather has been extremely pleasant. It's been a lot warmer the last few days, and then suddenly it was just like, I'm gonna let you be able to sleep now, which was nice. Okay, so we're just gonna add Amy. This is the loading dance. Hopefully you're going to have internet. It's all good. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Map Chats. Thank you so much for joining us today, Amy. It is greatly appreciated.
No problem. It's nice to be here.
It's all good. You can hear me okay and everything. I always have to do a mic check, like 1, 2, 3, testing.
You can hear me?
Yep, perfectly. Okay, so Amy, do introduce yourself to the kind people of Instagram.
Well, my name's Amy, obviously. I go under AE Paperart online. I don't really do paper art anymore. I just do maps instead. But I'm based in North Wales, so surrounded by some nice hills and nice inspiring landscape.
Yeah, so beautiful in Wales.
It's beautiful, but I'm in the middle of probably the nastiest town around. So
hopefully you can like go and wander outside of the town.
Oh yeah, five minutes that way, horrible. 5 minutes that way, amazing. So it's not too bad. But yeah, I do maps along with other small landscapes, I guess.
Yeah, and how long have you been mapping for?
I'm actually quite new compared to a lot of other people. I'm relatively new. I started
in a newbie. Young blood.
Yes, I started in January of 2019, I think it was. Before then, I was a paper cutter and doing lots and lots of really complex, detailed cuts.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But it's not popular.
Have you ever thought about combining the two, like kind of
here and there? But it is something that's done it's done quite a lot in paper cutting. It was something I always avoided doing in paper cutting because it came one of those maps versus like cutting out road maps and things became one of these trends for a while. Yeah, basically. But I was having an awful time around that at the start of 2019. I was in a horrible place. I wasn't selling any work. Nothing was working. And one day I literally just sat down and I couldn't face doing any of the paper cutting I planned. I just couldn't deal with it. I just wanted to crawl back in bed at the thought of it.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to draw a map. And I
just change things up.
Yeah, and I just popped it up onto my Instagram and suddenly I had a load of people looking at me going, make more. And I went, okay, I'll make some more. I will vouch for will. That's really great though. I think that's something that a lot of artists, I think, if you're doing one thing for a long time and you're struggling to create in that area, that completely like changing it up, trying something different, even if it's a bit scary because you've not done it before or shared it publicly before, I think absolutely did the right thing, because if you're feeling like a negative feeling towards what you're creating, you're definitely not going to be creating your best work. And also it's not enjoyable, and that's kind of the point of art. And I think I was trying to be an illustrator at the time and I was being just knocked back constantly. As anyone who's tried to get into the illustration business knows how hard it is to get on any publisher's books, and the amount of emails you send out and you get nothing back. And after doing that for a couple of years, you just
that must be really disheartening. And half the time it really hasn't got anything to do with the quality of your work. It's literally your connections, whether you send email at the right time, what mood the publisher is in,
whoever looks at the email, whether it's particularly their taste or something that they like, it's a hard industry to break into. And I just eventually just went, no, I can't do it. You know what? That's not for me.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's good that you came this way to the mapping side of the art world, because we're welcoming you in. Say, do more, do more.
I feel very welcome.
And so, like, obviously, you were doing the paper art. Had you done that? Was that something you'd done kind of like for a really long time? Were you creative as a young one?
It's something I started doing at uni. I was on an illustration course in 2005, and I started paper pussing in maybe 2006 or 7. And they really pushed it at uni. They pushed me towards it because they were so stunned by how delicate it was.
Yeah,
it just doesn't.
It's quite an unusual. Like, I don't see a lot of people doing it. I always admire it when I see it, but it's quite an unusual thing to see.
It is, and I think the problem is with it is once it's photographed or scanned, it looks like something you could produce on a computer. They only really have an effect if you're looking at a physical cut piece, the actual item.
Yeah.
But I did it all the way through there, and then I have a master's degree as well, and I did paper cutting all the way through masters and learned how to use die cutters and laser cutters to facilitate my work, and studied silhouettes in their use in illustration. And I graduated in 2012. So between 2012 and January 2019, I was desperately trying to make something of this skill that I'd spent my entire
a lot of money on.
Yeah. And it took until 2019, which is 7 years later, for me to eventually just go, no, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, it's a shame, but I guess it's allowed you to like shift your focus, and those skills are never lost. It's not like you can't ever do paper art again if you didn't want to.
No, I can go back to it, and I do enjoy the maps, and my hands are much better now. My hands were awful when I was using a knife.
Yeah, that must be quite like obviously very delicate work, but a lot of pressure to sort of hold the. I mean, I've never tried to cut anything out other than with scissors, which my mum's like, don't use the scissors.
But they all look like that, and the pressure that goes through your finger. Yeah. I used to get horrible swelling in my fingers and joints in my hand. So
dangerous activity. Sharp things and swelling does not sound like a pleasant experience, to be honest.
So yeah, my hands are very pleased that I've started doing something that's a little bit easier on them.
Yeah. So you're enjoying doing the maps more? I
am, yeah, and I'm enjoying the response they get.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds bad to say, but when you get likes and followers on Instagram, you don't want that to affect how you feel about your own artwork, but it does. After a long time, not anything.
At least getting some feedback, because as you say, like if you were contacting publishers and stuff before and just not hearing anything, I think that's actually sometimes worse than getting negative feedback, because at least you're saying something. So people, I think the community is really good for commenting on people's art and like sharing stuff and like boosting people up. So I'm glad that you've had that experience.
I'm very thankful of all the people that follow me and regular. Like I do notice the same icons come up every time, and you kind of want to say sometimes to them like, thank you so much for sticking with me.
Well, of course, like, and your maps are so beautiful, like, and they're so detailed, like, just wow. I'm very excited about your maps. And there is one, like, obviously a set of maps that I'm very interested in, which is your cartography.
It's a bit of a...
The T ones, and they're really cool.
They're
really cool. Yeah, it's not good for me. I'm like, there's a bit of it. But the ones with the T, they're awesome. How did you come up with that idea? Like, was that did you just stay in one day and?
I literally just I usually have various sketchbooks and notes either side of where I'm working, and it was as simple as I was drinking tea and I messed up a page in the sketchbook, and then later on that evening I was like, I don't really want to waste I'll just draw in it, and I was like, actually that looked pretty good, and admittedly now I purposely make the tea stains.
Oh, standard.
I don't obviously they're not planned, they're still random, but I do kind of rip tea and just make sure it's messy.
Yeah. do you have
But
a particular kind of tea that you drink? Is there a special kind of tea?
My favourite is Tetley or PG Tips. I prefer Tetley.
Well, it's interesting, like Tetley and PG Tips, because you know a lot of people, they're like one or the other, and that's that.
I go back and forth. At the moment, it's Tetley, and they do give different colours as well. Yorkshire Gold gives the nicest tea stains.
Yorkshire Gold, love it.
I don't like Yorkshire Gold.
I really like it. It's one of the only ones that I like. I'm not really a massive tea drinker. I think that's why I got kicked out of England and sent to Spain. Like, sorry, you can't be here anymore.
Can't stay here.
Take away your passport.
You either drink a cup of tea or you leave.
And I was like, no,
I'm not a fan of Yorkshire Gold. My flatmates, go for it.
Oh no, I was just saying that it's interesting how different colours, like it hadn't even occurred to me. I was like, it's all tea, right?
Yeah, it does give different, and obviously Yorkshire Gold is a little bit more yellowy and goldy. But my housemate's boyfriend drinks Yorkshire Gold, so every now and again I'll go and like steal the dregs of his tea.
If you just happen to spill something around the sketchbook, I didn't see anything. That's really cool. And so like now they've obviously turned into this whole like live series of videos. How are you finding that? Like, had you done a lot of live videos before?
No, it's the first time I've done it, and the first time I tried it I didn't say anything. I was anyone who commented, I replied by a comment, because I felt so anxious about the sound of my own voice coming over the microphone. It just felt weird.
It's strange hearing your own voice on like playback recordings and stuff, because it's like, oh, is that how I really sound?
Yeah. But I've since I started doing them, I've been doing a lot of, because of lockdown, I've been chatting to people over the internet a lot more, and I've got a new stick myself, so I'm much more comfortable with it now. My setup is awful though. I've got like the worst tripod ever, and I balance my phone face down like here, so every time I want to read the comments I have to like look up.
Like one of those meerkats where they're like well, you know, it's all a learning curve, and like I think obviously doing the maps is one set of things that you have to like buy or use, and then if you want to start making videos and kind of like more audio content and stuff, that's a whole nother kettle of fish, like having to get stuff. And books, to be honest, that work just as well. Maybe you're limited to like what surfaces you can put them on, but they do work fine if you just prop it up or whatever.
Yeah, eventually I'd like to get a nice setup and a decent camera to do it with, but that's a long way off. For now I can deal with it on my phone. I can edit everything on my phone. So
yeah, smartphones are so like, they're so clever. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Do you do like Instagram photos with your phone then?
Yeah, I literally just have my phone. I don't have a camera.
I'm like really random questions. Like, what phone do you use? Because the pictures are really good quality, and like the lighting and everything is just
Samsung A40, I think. So it's a cheap model. It was 200 quid, I think.
Nice.
But I went for a good camera on it. I did look for one with a decent camera.
Yeah, well, it definitely paid off, because the photos you posted, I'm like, ooh, pretty colours. That's really great. So in terms of like art supplies and stuff that you have, what do you generally use? I've got a specific question about like what watercolor palettes or whatever do you use? Share us a little about your supplies.
My paper, I love the paper I use. I'm a massive fan. I get my reaching down here anyway, because I'm at my desk, so I can grab everything. But the paper I use is from a company called Wild Paper UK, and they sell handmade paper, which is it's made using traditional methods. So the paper that I do a lot of my maps on, unless people want a painted background, all of the paper I do the work on is handmade as it would have been. Like, that's so cool. Years ago.
Do you know that if they ship to Europe by any chance?
They might do. It's worth looking, but they're all like really nice textured, and it's quite thick. Ooh. But it's still smooth enough.
This is definitely stationery porn.
It's Wild Paper UK. They are very good, and they do all sorts of different papers as well. But my favourite is the Locta. But they do like hemp and banana and stuff like that.
Banana paper. That sounds
banana
like
paper. Some of it's very thin. The thinner stuff isn't as good because you can't rub out your pencil lines.
Yeah, no, it's definitely better to get a bit thicker.
And then the only pens I use are Unipin fine liners.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've seen those ones before. Sorry, everyone, that I'm just like super up close to the camera right now. It's like I didn't put my glasses on, so I'm like.
I get it to focus, but it's not wanting to. But
oh, no, I can see what it says, yeah.
They're fade-proof and waterproof, and they come in from 0.8 mil down to 0.03, which is how I'm able to do all the crazy details.
Yeah, I think the smallest one I've got is 0.05, so that's interesting.
Yeah, this is 0.003, 0.03, so it's tiny.
Real small.
Very small. That's how I get all the tiny details in. But I have so many of these pens.
Which is your favourite thickness?
My favourite thickness. I use the 5 and the 1 the most. Yeah, those two. Those are I'll always use these. The 5.
Yeah.
0.5 and 0.1.
Just dots and numbers and zeros.
Yeah. The rest, it'll depend on what I need. If I need to go smaller than a 1, I can go smaller, and if I need to go larger, then I can go larger that way. But they're not too expensive either. They're only a few £pound each. So
yeah, no, they seem. Recommend them. I may have to have a little investigate on the Amazons. Yeah. I can hear my bank balance going. Oh, no, please, not more pens.
But by way of materials, other than the pens and the paper, that's it really.
And the watercolor, do you use like the little?
I don't.
That's the word.
I use a weird. I've actually got some here, so I can show you. I use a weirder type of watercolor. I use liquid watercolors, which not many people use.
Ah. Well, I'm intrigued now.
And they are watercolors, but they act like inks, and their pigment is like super strong. You can mix them on the paper from the pot. You don't have to mix them before applying them. You can just mix them while they're down, and they're like translucent, so you can layer them because they are watercolor and they act exactly like watercolor, and they lift the same way if you want to lift anything.
I'm just like dribbling because that sounds amazing. I'd literally never heard of those before.
You will probably find them. I have to buy them online because nowhere in England sells them. I found them for sale in France and in Belgium, but you can get them online. So you probably have more chance of finding them in the shops than I do.
Maybe. We don't have loads of art stores here. We've just got this really small one that's down the road. Most of the other stuff I have to buy online, so I may accidentally have to put some of those onto my cart.
They are really nice, and you can buy them in packs. I think
what's the colour range like?
Oh, it's huge. The amount I've got. I've never bought the packs because I just buy the colours I need now, but I must have 30 or so different colours from them.
And are they expensive?
They're about £4 for a pot, £4 or £5.
Oh, okay,
so it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
It's more expensive than pans.
Yeah, but if the pigment's stronger and it works what you want, then I think.
I mean, half of my photos, you said my photos are bright. Half the reason they're bright is because these are like they are bright in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I'm just like thinking about all the colours I can get now. And so, in terms of your workspace, do you have like a special place that you work, or do you just kind of like do it wherever?
I have my desk. I can show you my desk.
Do you show us? Like? Show us your desk.
You can spin the camera around. Right. Just unplug and stand up because I'm sat. So I work from my bedroom because I live in a shared house. So my bed is over there. Spend most of my time in one room.
Oh, it's so cozy though.
But yeah, this is where I work all day.
That's
looking
really
out
cute.
Across the road. There's a man that lives in that house who likes to take his dog.
Do you wave to each other?
No, I try and look down because I don't want to see him. But yeah, this is where I work. I've got a really nice circular bright light. and then you can see all of my crap.
Oh, these are
this is
props.
These are all the props. These are just like loads of pots of all sorts of stuff, shells and.
I was about to say, because in your photos, I swear that you have a dice set of every colour. That like
I might have. I do. I play a lot of Indian there. Actually, those are my favourite ones.
Oh, I love that. So pretty.
But yeah,
I was like got dice envy.
Loads. Half of these, aside from the actual plants, everything else gets used as props on and off. But yeah, that's where I sit and listen to music and podcasts. And
what kind of music do you like to listen to when you're drawing?
At the moment, I'm listening to a lot of soundtrack stuff, mostly from The Walking Dead, because I really like The Walking Dead soundtrack.
I like the main theme tune, although it makes me feel a bit scared, to be honest. Like, I really love like horror films and stuff, but for some reason zombie films like genuinely freak me out. And now after COVID, I'm like, dude,
you're really tuned
I'm really scared of zombies now.
Oh, I like zombies. So I like zombie media. It's fun.
Although Shaun of the Dead,
it's good. I did rewatch it the other day.
Perfect film. I just don't think that it's just it's the best film ever. Apart from then Hot Fuzz, which was also really great.
Yeah. Oh, I think I prefer Shaun of the Dead over Hot Fuzz though.
Yeah, no, I think I prefer Shaun of the Dead, but both of them were really good. But anyway, that was a little zombie tangent. But thank you for showing us your desk. That was really cute. I've got dice and prop envy now, so I'm gonna have to like try and find some stuff. So I've literally got like one set. Well, no, I think I've got two sets of dice. I don't know where the other set is, but most of my colours, like, it's very much with the white and the red and the black. So I think if I just whack some like blue dice in there, people will be a bit confused.
Yeah, get a couple of colours. They're not very expensive to buy, and everything else I use as props I've just gathered over time, like stones and shells, and just every time I see anything that I'm like, oh, that's a bit weird. So I've got like, I recently acquired some felt butterflies, which look quite good.
As you do.
Yeah.
Standard day in the life of Amy.
Yeah, lots of little clock parts. Anything that's like, oh, that might work one day, gets added to this.
Added
pile.
to the box. I approve. I approve. So when you're starting a map, do you have like a kind of like a process of like planning, or do you just go about it in like a kind of whatever happens first approach?
It depends what the map is for. Generally, if it's a commission, then it's planned. I do a A4 plan of it first, and then copy it in pencil onto the paper I'm using. But when it's a commission, you want to make sure you get everything right, because everyone has such a clear idea of how their worlds are going to look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff like the cartography things, and the other little watercolor ones I do. I just sit and look at it for 10 minutes and then start drawing. I usually, if I'm going to have buildings, I'll usually start with buildings.
Yeah.
Or a forest or a tree, and then just freestyle it, and I hope it looks good at the end.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head with all of them that I've seen so far, so I like it a lot. I just think they're just so cute, and I always like look forward to seeing them because you're so consistent. Like, I'm so impressed. How do you manage time, Amy? Because you've got to share it with us.
How do I manage my time? Lockdown.
Well, yeah, lockdown does help with,
Yeah, and literally not having anything else to do at the moment. I go between working on maps and gardening. I do have a day job which has just started back, so I'm going to try and keep the regular uploads going and try and keep that momentum. But the only reason I've managed to start getting myself into a routine is because I've had this huge amount of time off. I haven't got a partner or anything, so I haven't had any distractions. I've just been able to sit down.
Well, that's great. And so have you found, like, obviously because you've been so consistent, do you feel like you constantly have to motivate yourself? Like, how do you generally inspire yourself to draw these little creations?
Mostly, I don't know whether I don't think it's inspiration. It's mostly guilt. It's the days where I'm struggling and I'm still in bed at 11 or 12 o'clock. And I'm like,
one day you've got to
well,
have days.
I'm gonna feel bad if I stay in bed, and I feel bad now. I'm gonna feel worse later. I've got to get up and do it. Otherwise, by the time I get to the evening, I'm one of these people who beats myself up for not working, which no one should do. And I tell people off doing it, but I end up.
I think everybody's guilty of it. Absolutely. You're definitely not alone on that one.
Self-guilt.
Well, you don't need to feel guilty. If you share stuff with us, then we're very happy. And if you don't share stuff with us, we understand, because you're a human being and we cannot create constantly. I think it is impossible.
I do have one of the reasons I do appear so consistent though is because I don't wait until the day to do it most of the time. So the cartography is a bit different because I do that live streaming now. But I will have a morning or a couple of hours where I'll draw a few of those watercolor maps and then I'll photograph them all.
I think that's definitely a better way to do it. Yeah, keeping on top of it. And you can like store stuff for later. I was doing that before, but we're currently in the process of moving house and that's all just kind of like gone to shit. I was like, oh, okay, goodbye motivation and time. I was like, oh no. But I've just started drawing again now, but I was like, Amy's just drawing all the time.
Well, if I was moving house, I wouldn't be.
That's fair enough. So do you ever look in other places, kind of like for inspiration? Do you use Pinterest? Or what kind of other artists do you like looking at on Instagram? Do you have any particular?
I'm not a fan of Pinterest at all. Yeah,
really?
There's
I don't think I've ever met anyone who was like not so much with the Pinterest.
I hate Pinterest. I hate the way that it doesn't link back to the original source. Every time I go on it and try and find something I like, I try and find where it's from, and it just links me from one Pinterest board to another, and I'm like,
oh, okay. Yeah, no, actually that's very true. And there's so many duplicate pins of stuff that's popular, you're never really sure where it came from.
No.
Which with like just like pictures of, I don't know, trees or whatever, that's fine. But if it's somebody's artwork, you want to know where it came from.
And I take a lot of inspiration from books and from RPG games and Dungeons and Dragons. I play a lot of Dungeons, not just Dungeons and Dragons, other RPGs as well. Instagram a lot of the time. That's my main social media place.
Yeah.
And then historical maps. My day job, I work in a museum and we have an archives, and some of the historical maps that we've got are amazing.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's really nice being. I mean, I'm on reception, but it's really nice being somewhere where I can go and look at those historical maps.
That's really cool.
A few hundred years ago, it's nice.
Are they just maps of like historical maps of the area, or are they like world map?
No, they're the area. It's because it's a local museum. It's all local areas, but there has been a couple of cartographers who lived here. There's one called, I can't remember her first name, but it's Bagshaw, and she produced maps similar to mine, perhaps not as detailed, but that kind of like drawings of little houses, and she went around to a lot of the local villages and translated local villages into these really nice detailed 3D maps.
That's so cool. That's really, it's nice that you have access to something like that, kind of like in your job, at least, even if you're not, you know, doing something related to it, you can like be thinking about it and like have access to it. There was a question there which I just saw. Do you make maps for history, etc., etc.? Have you ever tried doing a historical map? Or?
I've been asked to do it at my workplace. They have asked me, but sadly they asked me at a point where I really wasn't in a position to work. Right at the start of lockdown, I wasn't doing anything. Yeah. There was a point where I had nothing going on at all, and that was the point when they asked me to produce a map, sadly. So it's on my to-do list. It's still on the to-do list.
Yeah.
But I will get round to it. I have had a couple of like archaeological courses though for drawing, like translating archaeological sites into, like they do in Time Team. They illustrate what was there. I've had a couple of classes.
Oh my god, Time Team! It's been so long since I watched that. I used to watch it avidly with my parents, and it was so fun. And they'd like just dig up all this cool stuff, and I'd be like, wow, as if that was like just lying around. That's really cool. Well, no, I think I'm actually, the map that I'm doing at the moment is of China. I haven't shared it with anyone yet. This is like, I'm spoiling my own work here, but it's been really nice to do something that's real world. I mean, obviously I'm going to do it in my style, which is like a fantasy style, but trying something new and doing that has been, yeah, it's been a learning experience.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be much more careful about where you place things.
Yeah, you can't just be like, oh, whoops, this river just like did its own thing. China's like very distressed about this. So you mentioned that you like play D&D. How many campaigns are you in? Are you a DM? Are you just playing?
Yeah, I DM at the moment as well. Well, I'm filling in with one shots, but I do DM. I'm about to start a new campaign once we work out times and stuff.
It's the most difficult part of any campaign.
At the moment, I'm actually only in one, which is a Skyrim one. So it's a 5e and a 5e adaptation of Skyrim, where
That's so
play
cool.
a Argonian called Mouse.
That's really cool.
And he stinks. It's quite fun to play a weird character.
Just needs to have a little hat.
I've just seen one of the people I play with actually pop up with but during lockdown we had quite a lot of other ones going, so I've done like SCP. I don't know if you know what SCPs are. They're like internet myth thing. And then Firefly, Star Wars I did for a bit as well. Ooh. So I've done a fair amount, but because people are now going back to work, that's dropped down a little bit. We're not doing it quite regularly, but it'll pick back up once we all get our rotas sorted, hopefully.
And do you draw maps for your campaigns?
I do, yeah. Battle maps, my players aren't quite as lucky as my followers. My battle maps tend to be a bit janky because they're drawn very quickly.
Yeah, but if you like specialize, or you like normally draw like world maps or continent maps, that sort of style, then it's difficult to try, and it's a very different style of drawing, I think.
It is, and often you're doing it in game, so I've just got a big whiteboard and they just get like an outline on
whatever comes out.
But I do often draw like islands for my campaigns, so if my campaigns are based somewhere, I will draw up the island properly.
That's really cool. Oh, I've just seen it. We've got another question here. Well, if I can open it up. Did you go to college in geography or cartography? Where did the interest in maps come from?
I just like maps. I used to collect maps when I was younger. I used to buy old road maps. Sounds really boring, but I used to collect
old like OS maps.
Yeah, and every time I was in like a charity shop or secondhand bookshop, I'd look through the maps and see whether I could find any interesting ones.
Yeah.
But I didn't study it in school. I did geography in high school, but I didn't take it any further than that. And
no. I was thinking the last time I did geography a long time ago. I mean, I did art at college, and then I kind of like debated doing it at uni, and then I was like, oh, I'm just going to do psychology. It's a completely random decision. And then I just changed my mind completely again and did a master's in marine biology and conservation. It's not really got anything to do with nothing to do with maths.
I did my master's in illustration. Yours was probably a lot more writing.
There was a lot of writing and a lot of statistics, which I regret deeply. But yeah, it was. I mean, it's certainly another passion of mine, like the environment and that sort of stuff. And I mean, my other hobbies, I kind of go diving and stuff here, which is great in Spain, because when I was living in England, not so much with the diving. It's
you don't even see once you get into
I mean,
the water.
I have heard that diving around kind of like the Scotland area is really beautiful if you get it on like a good day and the visibility is good, but just freaking cold. And I was like, it's not the one.
One of the closest places to me is Rail, and I don't think you'd want to go diving there.
No, there's a lot of stuff in the English Sea that you wouldn't want to like go diving with. And I think that wildlife in every part of the world is interesting. Like that, I'm interested in all of the sea life hanging around, but it's definitely, well, not that I dived in England, but I would imagine that it's more pleasant to dive here or somewhere more exotic than it is in the UK. But yeah, that's so. No, I didn't really do anything to do with cartography. I don't even really remember the first map I saw was, I think, the Lord of the Rings map. And I was like, me likey. And then like years later, I ended up doing the D&D map for somebody, for one of my friends. And here we are.
Yeah.
Do you have any other hobbies? I mean, we've seen some videos of your circus skills, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's something I started at uni. One of my closest friends, Rich, he was in the circus, so he was a clown before he came to university. So he is the one who's taught me.
Oh, sorry.
During lockdown,
my cat is like intent on knocking the tripod over. Not paying attention to me, so I'm going to knock it
over. But yeah, I just thought that lockdown was a good chance to learn something new. I've done poi for a long time, which is the balls on strings. That's what I learned years back. And then with lockdown happening, I was like, well, I've always wanted to learn staff, learn how to spin that. So Rich, because he's the one who's the partner to the person I live with.
Oh, okay.
So he's around a lot. So we weren't breaking quarantine. He's handy, but we weren't breaking quarantine. We're part of the same social bubble. But he was popping around and giving me instructions every couple of weeks and giving me a couple of new things to learn.
That's really cool. Do you think you'll ever kind of like do a performance and stuff like that? I mean, other than sharing it on
Instagram? Me and Rich used to. We would be part of the Chester. There's a city called Chester, fairly nearby, and we used to be part of the summer and winter watch parades, and we'd do fire skills and do it with fire poi and stuff.
That's dangerous.
Sometimes we'd get hired to do it outside of some of the local bars and clubs and stuff.
That's really cool.
But it's not something I've done for a long time.
No, I imagine it takes like time to obviously plan it, and if you have like a routine and stuff, if there's more than one person,
health and safety, especially when it's fire stuff, the health and safety.
Yeah, can't just whack fire out anywhere.
No, and when people want it outside of a club, and you know everyone's going to be drunk, making sure that these drunk people don't kind of like stumble towards you because they want to touch.
Yeah, they see the lights, and you're like, no,
don't come close. Is it real? Yes.
That's really cool. And also I've seen that you kind of like do cosplay and stuff. Do you kind of like make your own outfits? Do you go to conventions and stuff? I mean, I do try
to. Yeah, I go to conventions. Mostly the local ones. Me and my friends were starting to do larger ones, but most of the ones we've done have been like North Wales Comic Con, Liverpool, and smaller local ones.
I think they're fun sometimes though, because you meet more people that you know, or like you're in a community with those people. And also like local artists tend to go to the smaller ones, which is nice that you can go and support them.
Yeah. But I do make all my costumes. That's why it takes me so long, and I only have like 3.
But I think it's like
working on more.
It's good that if you have like some that you've made yourself, like you're more invested in it. I think it's the same as with traditional fashion, that this whole like kind of throwaway must have a different outfit every day. Yeah. It's not really good for anything. I mean, it's nice having a new thing, but if you've spent a lot of time, then why shouldn't you wear it more than once? And like, if it's a character you really love.
I have a tendency to pick characters that take quite a lot of work into them as well, because I do Molly from Critical Role, and his coat took me over a year. It had a 6-month rage quit in the middle, but the embroidery on it is insane. So, you know, I could have done 2 other costumes in the time it took me just sitting there swearing.
Do you have a little thimble?
I don't know. I should have. In fact, I used pliers at times to get it through the thick fabric. But I'd like to do more, and I am doing more. And there might actually be photos in the next few weeks.
Well, we're all going to be looking out for them now. How did you learn to sew and that sort of stuff? Was that something you just kind of like
My
taught
mum
yourself?
taught me. My mum had me sewing whilst I was in primary school. She was a seamstress, and she did like wedding dress alterations and bridesmaid
That's really
dresses and
cool.
curtains and upholstery
So you've got no excuse now. Any kind of like soft furnishings in your house, can't be
I can't do them.
going out to buy them. Just stick to your
No. I asked my mum. I asked my mum. Hey, I need some new curtains. If I send you some fabric.
That's very handy. Maybe you can give me your mum's number. Does she ship to Spain?
Maybe. I don't know how much. Quite heavy. Probably cost quite a lot.
I've just seen we've had another question from Mo Illustration. Do you have any artistic interests beside maps? And if so, does it bleed into map and fantasy-based art?
Yeah, it does. I do pet portraits and painting as well. I really don't post very many of them on. I think there might be one cat that I've posted recently onto my Instagram.
I guess it's like a different type of art. I think most people try to like keep it vaguely niche.
Yeah, and because I like keeping it as something that I don't do as commissions, there's something that I like doing for friends and people I know as gifts. I don't put them out there for fear that people might go, oh, can I have one?
Can I have one? Yeah.
But no, I do. I paint. I use the same paints as well. These F-line paints, and do quite detailed pet portraits. I paint minis as well, and I do cross stitch, crochet. I'm one of these people who picks something up for a couple of months and I'll get really into it. Like I spent a couple of months making felt toys. I got really into making felt toys. I had loads of them, and then I just got bored. So I'm making something else. The maps is something that sticks and I do all the time, and then everything else, it's like a fascination or a hobby for a few months, and then I'm like,
I think that's sort of like part of the artistic genes, though, that you're kind of like interested in a lot of things and your attention shifts a lot. So it's not surprising that you kind of like pick stuff up and put stuff down. Like, I think that's, I'm the same. I was like tried embroidery a bit and I was like super into it. And then like, I was like, oh, I think mostly it's time because I mean, I work full time. So, and I don't like now I'm moving and could be living even further away. So it's going to be less time and like I work in an office. So it's just like constantly with people all the time. So I'm just like exhausted by the time I get home because I'm very introverted and I love talking to people about things that I'm interested in, things that they're interested in, but just being in that kind of like constant noise environment, I'm just like just want to have a little nap.
I'm only part-time in my day job, and even then I find after a couple of days there, I just want to be left alone. I don't want to talk to anyone. Just put me in a room, give me some cider and go away.
Happy days. I mean, I do like doing photography. I mean, I don't have a fancy camera or anything. I just usually do it on my phone, but I mean, it's nice here because the weather here is very predictable in general, that I can go out anywhere and it's always going to be good lighting and sunshine. So it's nice to take photos. I mean, I don't post them on my Instagram. I usually just put them on my little personal one, but I mean, now most of them are pictures of my cat. He's very photogenic and he loves having his photo taken. So, I mean, that's not really anything related to maps other than when you see the landscapes and you're like, oh, maybe I can like draw a mountain like that instead of like the ones I was doing before.
I found Google Earth very handy for that. If there's ever landscapes that I'm unsure about, if someone asks me for something specific I've never done before, Google Maps, find somewhere on Earth that it's where it exists and then see what it looks like top down, and then usually you can do like a street view, can't you? So you can you can look both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're getting towards, I'm just conscious of the time because I didn't realise that it does cut us off at an hour. So I was like, we've got a few more minutes, but I know that you do commissions and I want to plug the commissions because I want people to know that you do commissions. So you can just like tell us a little bit about the process. Also, I know that you have an Etsy store, so you can tell us about that.
I do, yeah. My Etsy store is the same name as everything else. I'm under the AE_Paperart. I think at the moment I've only got medium and small maps up because I've got 2 large ones I'm doing at the moment. Once one of them is shifted, the slots will be open again.
So small and medium, what sizes are they, like A4?
So small is A5 and
A5.
medium is A4, and then large is A3. I am happy to work larger. You just have to.
They just take a long time.
They take a long time, and I don't list them typically. But if anyone drop me, if you are looking for something that's huge, drop me a message and I can talk to you about it and work out a price and then put up a commission listing. I do also do stuff books every now and again. So if there's anyone who's self-publishing books, I do discounted rates on the copyright for maps as well and the rights to publish. So that's another that's the one time I actually use my degree of illustration.
Yeah.
And what I've learned there, producing them for people who are doing the self-publishing route.
Yeah.
Campaign books and stuff.
That's really cool if you can get your art work in somebody's book.
But the process that usually works when someone buys, if you send me as much information or as little information as you have, if you have a doodle yourself, then doodle it out. I don't mind how bad it looks. You wouldn't be paying me if you could draw a map.
Yeah, exactly.
Just do a doodle and give me information. In fact, the more information, the better. I love getting these huge emails and stories of what
all the lore and stuff. I'm like, yes, tell me about the dragons.
Exactly, and then I can draw them on and stuff. And then I draft out the picture and send images, and you get a lot of time. In fact, you can have as much time as you want in that draft stage to change things. You just have to be aware that it's going to push back the date that you're going to actually get your map. But once that's, you can have as much input into changing elements and making it how you want before I go in with pen and draw it.
Have at it.
Yeah.
That's really good. So and so people who want commissions, they just go to your Etsy page, or can they just DM you directly about them?
I prefer it over my Etsy page because over Etsy you just have that security on both sides.
Yeah.
But if you are after something that isn't on my Etsy, then DM me and I can talk to you and then list something or organise something with direct payments and stuff.
Perfect.
I will say on when the larger maps go back up at the end of the week, hopefully at the end of the week, I will put on my Instagram stories that they're
to let people know. Okay,
yeah.
So we'll look out for them. Okay, so my final, my parting question to you is kind of like, where do you want your Instagram to go? Do you have any kind of dream cartography projects that you'd like to do, or ideas about what stuff you'd like to do in the future?
I mean, I don't think I do at the moment. I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying doing the commissions, and I feel like I'm just starting to get into my stride doing that. And
yeah,
I'd quite like that to last another 6
as long
months
as possible
before building to something else. I'd like to get used to this and used to the amount that I'm producing. As you said, I am producing a lot at the moment, and I'd like to know that I can do that consistently and continue that. I'd like to open a Patreon eventually and find something that I can deliver to people that people want.
I think Patreon's a difficult one because you have to you want to give something different than what you're producing commission wise, but also something that's realistic for you to be able to create, and that people you kind of getting their money's worth, but you're also getting your money's worth artistic value
down for it as well, because I don't want to start it and then get 3 months in and suddenly go, oh my god, I haven't done anything, what do I give them? Oh, no.
Yeah.
So I want to carry on for the next 6 months as I am, and then start looking at doing a Patreon and perhaps look at doing even larger maps maybe, because I do get asked a lot for people want huge big impressive things, so see whether I get to a point where that's a possibility.
No, absolutely. I think the sky's the limit, and the community is growing, but it's still quite a niche thing to do. So and there's always people wanting art of different styles. Everybody's map style is so different. I think it's wonderful seeing everybody's different takes on very kind of similar things. because I think most classic fantasy settings kind of look the same. They're all kind of foresty, mountainy, lakey places. So, but your work's beautiful, and I think what you're doing is great.
Thank you so much.
Keep at it. Like, don't feel guilty.
I'll keep doing it.
To do, and like we're all really excited, especially about your TV videos, because I really like them a lot.
Thank you so much. It does mean a lot.
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap it up here because I'm conscious of the time, and also you want your evening to go back to drawing or drinking tea or whatever it is.
Just be painting a map on the wall. So.
Oh, really? Like a mural kind of thing?
Yeah, I'll put some pictures in my stories. So if anyone wants to go and see what I've been painting on my wall, they can go.
Definitely, do share it with us. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I will leave a link to your Etsy down in the description box. And also, just remind me what the name of that paper place was that you buy your paper from.
Oh, Wild Paper UK.
Wild Paper UK. Wild Paper UK. Wild Paper UK. Okay. I'm just definitely going to go and Google them
Just send me a message if you forget. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you. You too. How do I leave?
I'll kick you out. Don't worry.
You'll kick me out. All right.
Okay.
Bye.